The lead in the National League East, 8 games now for the Phillies after taking care of the Mets in the first game of this big 4-game series at Citizens Park, 1-0. We're going to break down all angles of this game here on this latest edition of Hittin Season from WHYY. It is Hittin Season. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Phight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Podcast pals, we have quite a show. We're going to get into this first game of the series against the Mets. Great outing from Aaron Nola. Some great work by the bullpen. A little bit of nail-biting time there in the 9th inning, but the Phillies may have already done enough in this series, just winning this first game in order to lock down the division. But we'll talk about that. We'll do some leftovers from the weekend. Justin was in Miami watching the Marlins and watching Trea Turner mess up his hamstring. So we'll talk about the latest, what we heard on Monday regarding Trea Turner. Also, Alec Bohm hitting the injured list, and Brandon Marsh having some tummy troubles. So we'll talk about all of that stuff here. And then if we have time, we'll dip into a Phillies rumor from our favorite national reporter, Bob Nightingale from the USA Today. But it's stuff I wanted to hear, so I'm going to choose to believe it. Joining me on the roundtable, as they do every week, Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher. Justin from Baseball Prospectus. Follow him on X and Blue Sky. Pardon me, just on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. Justin, again, you were in Miami this weekend, catching the Phils and getting into clubs and all that kind of stuff. How was your time?
I'd never seen baseball played in a dome before, so that was there. I walked in and there was just, it felt more like we were at like a monster truck rally or something. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, it was a fun series to see, and it was also fun to just kind of see these. I like seeing like the idiosyncrasies of each individual place, especially teams like the Marlins that don't like have a huge personality, or at least not a widely known one across baseball. And one of the things that was great about going to Marlins Park was that the Saturday we were there, the Saturday game was Nicaraguan Heritage Day, and the stadium was like more crowded than it was on, I think, either of the other 2 days we were there, which, you know, Marlins Park, you don't really think of like big crowds or anything. And everybody was cheering like every play. Like everybody was just excited for baseball, and there was like some purity to that where they're like cheering for like a hard hit ball when there's 2 outs and the Marlins have no one on base. Like, it's not a very exciting situation, but everybody's very excited, and it's like it was cool. It's very cool to see because, you know, we're from a more miserable Northeastern sports background where it's like, this isn't going perfectly, so it's a complete disaster. And I don't know, anyone who doesn't realize that is just stupid. So that was cool, but then like I was in a bar after the game and heard I got in a conversation with this cook who was talking about how, yeah, people need to just be able to enjoy sports and not really worry about like the wins and losses. And after that wonderful epiphany at the game, all I could think was like, this guy sounds like an idiot. Like,
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
No wonder you guys are never going to win anything if that's the attitude around it. Like, what are you talking about?
How can you enjoy something if you're not riddled with pain and anger preceding it? I don't understand this.
A nice little moment followed by, coming right back to the shadow of the misery at the center of our fandom. I will say that, you know, nothing short. That description of what's going on with the Phillies now that started, you know, with Trea Turner leaving that game on Sunday, that Matt Gelb kind of just unloaded on everybody today, that suddenly there were many things wrong, was nothing short of a biblical plague. But then I saw tonight that the Phillies are advertising pumpkin spice bacon at their ballpark.
Yes, they are.
Perhaps a plague is what we've wrought.
We're all deserving. If somebody's gonna try that one on, you know what? I'll try it. I'll try anything. You know, but I'm not enthused. Liz Roscher, editor of SABR's Baseball Research Journal. Follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz, we are talking after this 1-0 win against the Mets, but also dealing with some injury news to Trea and to Alec. Mixed emotions here on this episode of the podcast, but largely, I guess, vibes are good at this moment, maybe?
I'm still really focused on the pumpkin spice bacon. Is it just like sprinkled with a seasoning? Does it include anything else, or is it just bacon with pumpkin spice? Do we know? Does anyone know?
I hope you're not asking me. All I saw was a banner. I feel like it would be...
banner advertising it. Well, that's
behind
concerning.
The plate during the game, I think. It
would be dangerous, I think, to investigate on further levels. Look how much damage we've already gotten. And, you know... I not to circle back to this, but you can't talk about the Marlins series this weekend without talking about the story that came out of it that dominated the news.
Phillies
and so,
Karen.
you know, all this stuff that kind of all these injuries and everything. I mean, you know, It sucked that Turner's stint was announced right before. Like we tend to interpret horrible news like this with like, okay, how's this going to play out? The first game following announcements like this is usually how we decide. Okay, this is how it's going to go. So that it was going to be a Aaron Nola start against the Mets was like, this is going to be really bad. But that's what happens perhaps when you steal a baseball from a kid, and then tonight happened, and that whole narrative went away anyway. So I guess tonight we're going to spend a lot of time talking about how this team continues to just make no sense. Every time I'm talking about them on this show now, I feel like I'm presenting findings to a board that I'm like, I'm just winging it the whole time. Right. I'm just like clicking through a presentation like, I don't know what this is. This is, of course, the loading screen. And obviously these results don't match up, but I mean,
this
honestly,
is a picture
at the end
of my
the day,
dog for some reason. I don't know how that got in here.
This is a graph with a screaming Nicolas Cage in the corner. I'm not sure. Yeah, again, I'm pretty sure that's a mistake.
This is a video of the screaming Karen. Let's all look at this and see what the Phillies fandom really is like. What? I still can't believe that. Like an adult grown woman.
Yeah.
That was mine. No, it wasn't. Harrison Bader, no one owes you anything, lady. Wow.
Yeah. If Phillies Karen isn't the most popular Halloween costume in Philadelphia next month, I don't know I shouldn't have this show. Because if everyone's not dressing up as Phillies Karen, I really don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing.
It's perfect timing.
It really is.
It actually is.
Anyway.
It's like the best low effort Halloween costume for women in the Phillies fans.
Can I, before we get into this game here, can I just say, did Phillies Karen not look a whole lot like a female John Middleton? Just in terms of like the face and the glasses, you know what I mean? Like
I hadn't even thought about this.
Do a picture comparison. It's the first thing I thought. I was like, that could be John Middleton's sister. Like, and I'm not saying anything about John Middleton. It doesn't have anything to do with. I'm just the resemblance was striking. that's. To me, anyway. To me.
He did stiff his siblings out of their inheritance. As I don't know if it was proven in a court, but there was certainly a civil lawsuit about it.
And they're taking it back, one baseball from a child at a time.
That's right. No, that's
exactly.
The comment I liked was odds of this person's name being Pat, Terry, or Marianne are through the roof.
Maybe Lori. Lori.
Terry. I said to my wife, I was like, this woman is so Philadelphia. Like, it's just, you just, and her flipping the bird to everybody as they're like yelling. I mean, just doubling down moments afterwards.
I mean, it's not like you're going to acquire shame after having none in that moment. You're not going to suddenly have it once the boos start. No, you're going to double down. That's
that woman has thrown stuff on the field of an Eagles game. She just
oh god.
I had to have something. Anyway, all right, let's talk some baseball here. We're going to get to the injury stuff in just. Actually, we should probably dip in on the injury stuff first before we talk about the game, because the injury stuff has affected the game here on Monday night that the Phillies won 1-0 over the Mets. But we're talking, of course, about Trea Turner. The news on his hamstring that he pulled over the weekend, late in Sunday's game in Miami, I think was probably about as good as we could have hoped for. It is a grade 1 strain of his hamstring, so that's unlike the grade 2 hamstring strain that he suffered last year that kept him out for 6 weeks. The Phillies say that they are hopeful, a little less enthusiastic than I was hoping for, but they're hopeful that he'll be ready for the playoffs. They think that he will be. I think the hope by everybody is that maybe he's even able to come back a week ahead of time just to get some at-bats in before the postseason tournament starts. But at the very least, he's going to be out for the next couple of weeks, at least as he tries to get this hamstring healed. Other players have missed about 3 weeks with a hamstring like this. So that's kind of, I think, what we're looking at, somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks. If that is the case, you're talking the National League Division Series is 26 days away from tonight, Monday. So that should be enough time for Trea Turner to get back in time if the Phillies are able to secure that first round bye past the wild card round. So that's the Trea Turner news. We also found out on Monday that Alec Bohm has a shoulder injury. That's going to force him onto the 10-day injured list. He's not expected to miss any more than the 10 days. But this, of course, has resulted in the Phillies needing to make a whole lot of roster changes. Brandon Marsh was not available for the game here on Monday against the right-handed starter because he's dealing with a pretty bad case of the flu. So he was out. So you had a very interesting lineup here on Monday night. You had I just lost it. Hang on a second. I just lost line. Bryce Harper was leading off in this game. Kyle Schwarber was batting second as the DH. You had Real Muto hitting third. Max Kepler, your cleanup hitter for game one of this all-important 4-game series against the New York Mets. And hey, Kepler's actually been very productive over the last month, so I'm going to give the guy credit.
Oh, we're aware.
Yeah,
we are
very
aware.
Well.
We know.
Harrison Bader hitting fifth. Nick Castellanos, 6th. Bryson Stott, 7th. Edmundo Sosa taking over for Trea Turner at shortstop batting 7th. Sorry, Kemp. I don't know. Yeah, it was 8th, and then Kemp batting 9th at third base. So they call up Otto Kemp to the roster in order to take Alec Bohm's place, and of course Edmundo Sosa is getting Trea Turner's spot. They also called up infielder Donovan Walton from Lehigh Valley. Imagine being Donovan Walton right now. You're like, you've spent the whole season in the minors just languishing in AAA, and now you get a phone call. You're coming up to the first place Phillies to help finish up a pennant race run. You may not play much, but you're getting to be in with a major league team for these next few weeks in the heat of a pennant race. I think that's pretty cool. So, Liz, your thoughts on the Trea Turner news? Alec Bohm going on the injured list, all the injuries here that are affecting the Phillies. It might make for a rocky couple of weeks, but it does sound like, at least, that the team will hopefully be intact for the playoffs.
I mean, that Alec Bohm news was out of nowhere. I hadn't heard about it before the game started tonight, and I'm like, hey, where's Alec Bohm? Where'd he go?
I don't think anyone had. I think that was just like a bonus misery Gelb threw in with the Trea Turner stuff.
I was just like, hey, I guess he's out for 10 days. Like, I mean, sure, shut him down now, let his shoulder heal. But yeah, that was a little shocking. Shocking might be the only word I have to describe it. Seeing him not there, and having never heard of Donovan Walton, I'm very excited for him. That's his name, right?
Donovan Walton. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I got it right.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, it was a lot to take in on Friday afternoon. We knew that the Turner news was expected. There was, of course, the worry: is it going to be another 6-week thing like last time? But now it does sound like it's just going to be a few weeks. I think if I'm a betting man, I think he comes back before the playoffs start and then he gets some regular season games in.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies have suffered their share, perhaps more than their share, of significant injuries to very important players this season. And in a lot of cases, they've managed to luck out and get those to occur in like some fortunate windows of time where they can. It's not the worst thing in the world for the bigger picture that like that particular guy got hurt when he got hurt, or suffered the issue he had when he had it, or in some cases wasn't suffering an issue at all when it looked like perhaps that he was. So this, I see no reason not to also qualify. I mean, if that's kind of like what we're doing this year, I'm okay with that, because I mean, there were some fortunate aspects of it that you even just saw in the moment, in that like this wasn't like him agonizing on the field and collapsing. He just kind of slipped away, and it like took a second, to realize why the game had kind of stopped, and that they were making changes to the lineup. As far as replacements go, I mean, Edmundo Sosa, you can do a lot worse in baseball. Sure. Like, he's been, a very effective utility guy for the Phillies. But yeah, in general, I feel, and again, the results of tonight's game were going to play a big role in this, but I feel that kind of same, when we got the Wheeler news, that same kind of like bizarre, ambiguous, kind of thing. It's like that. There's nothing can be done
what
here.
Can you do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. It's just,
you just gotta live with it.
But none of it has made me ever think that, like, well, that's it. That's the thing that has unplugged the season. And honestly, playing the Mets away from Citi Field doesn't really alarm me too much. If the season started at the All-Star break, the Mets would be in 4th place. I saw it today in the standings. The Marlins would be in 2nd. They're not a scary team, but the Phillies are, like, scared of them at Citi Field. I mean, it's another bout of misfortune, and I would love to throw into that list you read. I'll throw in as well that Justin Crawford and Otto Kemp collided so hard that Justin Crawford broke a bunch of his teeth. I just so
Yeah.
like this is just kind of going on right now. But then you like look around at the situation and you're like, well, I'm glad that there's enough depth here, and some of the guys who haven't been performing well for the first 5 months of the season have started to like look a little better in the past couple weeks. You mentioned Kepler, but also like Bryson Stott, Harrison Bader finds a role to play in the middle of every bit of trouble the Phillies are stirring up recently. Again, I still feel like what I said a couple weeks ago is true, that this is a team that goes out every night and still has the pieces to win, even without some of the more important pieces available to them. But again, you look around and there's nothing you can really do. How do you prevent Sosa from getting overexposed as he fills in for a starter? How do you avoid an offensive drought with Turner and Bohm and Marsh out for at least one night or a couple of nights? How do you replace Zach Wheeler? How do you get Bryson Stott and Max Kepler to keep playing as productively as they have? You don't, you can't, that's impossible, and you don't. And who's that knocking at the door? Oh, it's the Phillies' super high chase rate on pitches outside of the zone, back again for another visit. Unideal, but if that's what feels natural to them right now, I mean, honestly, after all the complaining we've done about that particular aspect of their approach and how exciting it was for them to not be to appear to have gotten a little more disciplined and improved a little bit in that department. If that's what you need to do to win games, if that's going to win you games right now, fine. Sure, it's September and everyone's hurt, like they play so well at home. So if you can get away with swinging at slop off the plate, I think you could probably get away with, like tonight, a 1-0 win. I did not think was going to happen. Now more than ever, this season is about getting whatever you can from whoever's around. And in a way, it's really simplified things. All these injuries, they kind of made the future a little more ambiguous or concerning, worrisome, but like in the present, things are now just very simple. We don't have to even talk about, particular aspects of the Phillies where they need to improve or this guy needs to step up, blah, blah, blah. You kind of just got to hit the ball enough to win games. You got to get a good enough pitching performance from your starter to win the game. You got to get enough of the pieces you have to win the game, and it's really just as simple as that. It's time to just let the Phillies take the wheel, close our eyes, and hope when we open them again, it's the post. They have the first round bye in the playoffs, and we're not careening off a bridge. That's kind of just that's what it is.
Yeah. And this team needs that first round bye now more than ever. I think.
Oh, very much.
Of all the teams in the National League that need this first round bye, the Phillies probably need it more than most, and they're in a great position. The Dodgers are going to play the Rockies this week just at the same time the Phillies are playing the Mets. So I don't anticipate. I think the Dodgers will start to get a little bit better this week. They might get a little well, but they've been struggling tremendously. The Phillies, at this moment, before the Dodgers game has started, have a 4.5 game lead for that number 2 spot in the National League, which is a sizable advantage at this time of year. But I think you're right. I think the Phillies, it's just kind of like all hands on deck. Everybody's got to do what they need to do. You're going to need to have a Cal Stevenson game in here somewhere. You're going to need to have some Buddy Kennedy moments from guys like Otto Kemp. I mean, maybe this new guy, too, will come up. Dalton, what's his name?
Donovan Walton.
What is it?
Donovan Walton.
Yeah, okay. Maybe Donovan Walton.
Whoever.
We get a Donovan Walton moment or two here over these last few weeks, but what's really going to have to happen here is you're going to need the star players that you have left: Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto. Those guys gotta carry the load for a little while. Brandon Marsh is already doing that when he's not having the flu and all those kinds of things, but Stott's been better. Bader's been doing a lot of damage here as of late. I mentioned Kepler's been doing real well. So you need these guys to just kind of stem the tide and figure things out, especially at the top of the lineup. It'll be interesting to see if Bryce Harper continues as the leadoff guy or if they move Schwarber to the leadoff spot, or maybe they try Bader there. Maybe they try Stott there against right-handers. We'll just I don't think they're going to go with the same lineup every night, essentially, with Trea Turner out. But I will say this. I think the most important part of this team is that with this offense missing so many pieces right now, the pitching staff has got to put it together. And here on Monday night, in this 1-0 win over the Mets, you had Aaron Nola's most important regular season start since the wild card clinching win against the Astros in 2022 late in the season. This was a huge start for Aaron Nola to bounce back, to show that he can actually still pitch at the big league level. He mixed up his pitches a whole lot better in this game because outside of the big three of Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, and Ranger Suarez right now, the rotation's been really iffy. You know, Taijuan Walker gave up a lot of runs in the first inning on Sunday, then settled down, but that's still, 4 runs put you in a little bit of a hole. You just can't really do that. Aaron Nola giving up a lot of runs early in his last 2 starts. Can't do that. He kind of looked a little shaky in the first 2 innings, got hit around a little bit, but they were foul balls. Mets players were just missing stuff. And then he put it on cruise control, kind of in like that Aaron Nola form we've seen from him in past years when he's really on his game. And I didn't know if that guy was still in there. So for him, yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Such a relief to see it. I'm just saying, it's such a relief to see it because I think everyone doubted whether or not it was still in there. You had questions on, your last couple of show sheets for our roundtables. Is Aaron Nola washed? And I'm glad you didn't quite get to those points because I don't think any of us were ready to make any big pronouncements. But he's not. Stop it, Justin. I see you giving sideways glances. At least I wasn't ready to make a pronouncement about whether or not he was washed because I'm glad he still has this in him. Mm-hmm. There's still a decent pitcher in there, and the key now is to see whether or not he can do it 2 times in a row. That's the key because doing it once is excellent, and we all love to see it. But I'm not going to get too excited because unless he can do it twice in a row, it's kind of meaningless.
Well, I'll say this: he did it against the Mets, a team that this team has struggled against tremendously, and the fact that he did it on this day when Trea Turner's injury situation was made known a little bit, and Alec Bohm goes out, Justin, I thought was a huge statement by him. I think you're right, Liz. Can he do it again? He's going to need to do it again in order to prove that he should get a start in the postseason. But you're not giving that start to Taijuan Walker, and I don't think Walker Buehler is necessarily going to come up and shine. So really, it's Aaron Nola's game 4 of the NLCS to lose at this point. And I think, you don't, in the playoffs, you may only need him twice, Justin. Game 4 of the NLCS, game 4 of the World Series if you get that far.
This is what I'm talking about. We're sitting here after 6 shutout innings from Aaron Nola, who it would need like a beam of heavenly light to shine down on the mound for him to recover from like the season he's had and the performances we've seen from him. And the question being asked, is he washed, is being asked because of a much wider body of work than the 6 shutout innings he threw tonight that were all bad. It was all bad Aaron Nola. Was there one other good Aaron Nola start before tonight? So I'm not saying I'm not saying to tear down what he did tonight, which I was absolutely thrilled to see. He gave the kind of performance that I kept saying when he came back from the injured list. Hey, this is a chance for him to be the most important member of this rotation all year long. He's kind of stepping into the role that Andrew Painter was kind of theorized to have. These sort of second half reinforcement that's got a high ceiling. But how high did we consider that ceiling at that point? But this is what I'm talking about. We're sitting here talking about, can he do it again? You can't. He's going to pitch again. So, like, can he do it again isn't really the question. The question was, could they ride his body to a win tonight, like a sled down a hill? And they did it. They did it. Like, he did it. He was able to come through for them tonight. It worked. Will it work again? I have my doubts because it's Aaron Nola, and it doesn't work so often. He is just not a reliable pitcher. You can't really argue against that. He is just not a reliable starting pitcher. So you got 6 shutout innings from him tonight in a game that was so good for the Phillies to win. I hope this has all the positive impacts on him that you hope it does. I hope this sends his confidence through the charts, off the charts. I hope this makes him feel better. I hope this is the beginning of a string of starts where he just is, vintage Aaron Nola. But I don't know. I don't think you can think that far ahead right now. I think this team's scrapping together a lineup night by night and just relying on fewer aces than they thought they were going to have, fewer pitchers than they thought they were going to have. And I said in a previous episode that I'd start Taijuan Walker in a playoff game over Aaron Nola.
Yes, you did.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm backtracking on that just yet because Aaron Nola is Aaron Nola, and nobody has ever been able to tell me what that means.
Well, you're right. Aaron Nola is Aaron Nola, and that means 2 different things. Aaron Nola is Aaron Nola when he blows up in the RAV 4th inning, and has those innings that blow up on him and get out of control. And Aaron Nola is the Aaron Nola who can throw 7 shutout innings in a playoff series, which he has done numerous times. I mean, in the same playoff season, he can look like one of the most unhittable pitchers in baseball, and then later on in the playoffs have a hard time getting anyone out. I mean, so that's just kind of that. Luckily, you don't need him to be your game 2 starter right now. You basically would need him to be your game 4 starter, and that's really what this is. He's actually auditioning. That's what these next few starts are, is an audition for him to get a start in the playoffs or to be used in a piggyback situation in a playoff game or whatever. But he is important to this rotation and to this team. And Jason Stark tweeted something out about how pivotal a figure he is for the Phillies. He said tonight was Aaron Nola's 35th start as a Philly, where he pitched at least 6 shutout innings. The Phillies are 32-3 in those games. So when Aaron Nola pitches well, when he throws 6 shutout, I mean, I would imagine that any pitcher who throws 6 shutout innings, their record is, generally speaking, probably going to be very, very good, if not almost exactly like that record. But that being said, Aaron Nola doing that against the Mets are one of the hottest offenses in baseball over the last month and a half. I didn't think he could do it. And seeing him do it and seeing him mix up his pitches differently. I mean, he wasn't just, he was commanding his fastball better, but the two-seamer was being used more frequently. The changeup was being used more frequently. And it was clear that he put a game plan together that the Mets weren't ready for, which he's seen these guys a million times. I'm impressed that he was able to get through that lineup, especially that last time through when he came out for the 6th inning and he had to get out Juan Soto and Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor, and he got those guys 1, 2, 3. That was very surprising. I was a little surprised they brought him back out for that inning, and I was amazed, Liz, at how clean that inning was.
Yeah, I was shocked that he came back out. I was not sure that was a good idea. In fact, I was pretty sure it was a terrible idea. I was pretty sure that's where they were going to lose the game. But, I mean, and I think if you asked Rob Thompson, in his heart of hearts, he probably didn't know whether it was a good idea either. He knows Aaron Nola better than any of us, right? I mean, he knows exactly who he is. And that it's hard to tell you who he is on any given day, night, week, month, or year. So, yeah, it was good to see him get that done. But I was biting my nails all the way down to my cuticles the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, Justin, I wonder if Rob Thompson thought it was more important to see what Aaron Nola would do in that situation over bringing in, like he didn't, if that was a playoff game, I don't think Aaron Nola gets that 6th inning. I think he goes to one of his bullpen guys in that spot.
Yeah, Gel was kind of hitting at that today on The Athletic. He was talking about Luzardo's last start, but he was saying, like, this was an example of a time when in the postseason, you're probably not going to see him get the opportunity to clean up his mess. Like, he probably gets the early hook, and I can't imagine you're not taking a similar approach using Aaron Nola in a playoff game. Where like, okay, you're probably, we're gonna try to power through these first few innings. If you start getting into trouble though, like, that's kind of what Walker Buehler's for. Like that's we're gonna press that button and we're not gonna mess around and watch a bad situation get worse. So yeah, I was a little surprised to see him come back out, but every time that happens, I just kind of like stop being surprised by that, because that's like one of Thompson's favorite moves is to send a guy out one more inning than you think is appropriate.
Yep.
This time it worked out, and you mentioned the different approach he was taking and the way he was mixing his pitches tonight. That was encouraging because every time the Mets play the Phillies in the past two years, the Mets seem to have a plan to beat the Phillies. To attack the Phillies in some ways more effectively than any other team the Phillies play. And you can see that not just in the results, but in who they beat. We're talking about Nola, and that was really great for him to be the one to make the adjustment and to have it really pay off, because the Mets didn't know what to do with him, especially Francisco Alvarez, who has such this is my first day energy in that, like, it's not that his approach is strange. It's that it's like he's not played in a professional Major League Baseball game before with some of his actions and decisions. And, like, why is he allowed to, like, try to tackle his own pitcher because he didn't see him trying to call for, like, tell him to step off? It's bizarre. Anyway, point is, the Mets seem to always have a plan. And you see that, I think, in no more place than in their success against Duran. The Phillies best pitcher. You can probably make an argument for like pound for pound. Every team struggles against him, it feels like, except the Mets. They just, they found a way. They found a way tonight to get into a serious situation that looked like, all right, this is going to take some dealing to get out of. Fortunately, he's the kind of pitcher that can step up in that moment, and the Phillies got out of it, and they got the win. But you saw, they were talking about, Klugh was talking about him getting revenge based on the last series when they were able to beat Duran in the last series up in Citi Field. And it was like, honestly, again, I'll go back to that other point I've been making. Stop trying to do two things. Like, don't have revenge. You can't, like, just beat him. Just beat him the same way you'd try to beat anybody else, or, make an adjustment based on how they're attacking you, because they've got a plan. So you got to have a plan too. And it can't just be revenge. Revenge is not a plan.
No. And that Duran inning, that ninth inning was, first of all, David Robertson is really looking great. I was so wrong about David Robertson and his effectiveness. Yep. It was a great signing. It just was a great signing. Kudos to Dave and the scouting department for David Robertson coming back and what he's been able to give them. And Matt Strahm got those first two outs, and then Strahm does this sometimes. Like he cruises through an inning and then kind of loses the strike zone, and it would look like that was happening. But Bryson Stott made an unbelievable diving play on a hard hit grounder by Soto that kind of stopped that eighth inning from becoming a 2-out problem for Matt Strahm. And then Duran comes in, and it's clear the Mets have a plan. Like you said, Justin, they swing first pitch on him because they know Duran's in the strike zone. So they're looking splinker and they're looking strike zone, and that's what they're attacking early in the counts. And they just happen to hit some line drives that found some spots. But unlike in Citi Field, Duran gets second and third and one out and buckles down, where last time he was unable to get the strikeout in order to keep the Mets off the board. This time with Jeff McNeil, battles him to, I think it was like a 7 or 8 pitch at bat, finally gets a strikeout on a 102-mile-an-hour fastball in a perfect spot, just where he couldn't get to it. And then Francisco Alvarez has one of the most uncompetitive at-bats. I mean,
so bad.
At-bat against Randy Johnson in the All-Star game was the most uncompetitive at-bat I've ever seen. This was number 2. He wanted no part of what Duran was throwing up at the plate. It was hilarious. No. Thank you.
He swung at nothing. Swung at nothing almost every time. He threw a pitch like 2 feet from his bat, 2 entire feet away from his bat, and he swung directly at him like, what are you doing? And that ended the game. That is the pitch that was the swing that ended the game. Dude, your teammates absolutely deserve to rib you for that, because that's huge. That's embarrassing for a baseball player.
It was crazy. Joan Duran, since joining the Phillies now, 13 2/3 innings pitched, 12 hits allowed, 2 runs, 15 strikeouts, no walks, which is what you want to see from your closer with a 1.36 ERA. By the way, this Phillies, I got a little bit of, I got some stuff thrown at me on X a little bit, because around the 5th inning, after the Phillies kept squandering scoring opportunities, I tweeted out, there's no way this game ends 1-0. But I have some history to back me up on that. The last time the Phillies won a 1-0 game against the Mets at Citizens Bank Park was in 2009. Pedro Martinez got the win for the Phillies that day against his former team. Chase Utley drove in Jimmy Rollins for the only run in that game. This was the Phillies' first 1-0 win of any kind against the Mets since 2016. And at Talkin' Baseball tweeted that the Mets' 1-0 loss to the Phillies tonight is the first time they've been shut out at Citizens Bank Park since 2021. So the Mets typically score at Citizens Bank Park. They don't get shut out. There was reason to think that this thing wouldn't end 1-0, but a phenomenal job by Aaron Nola, David Robertson, Matt Strahm, Joan Duran managed to keep the Mets off the scoreboard. And it really wasn't until the 9th inning that they had a real threat. That scared the crap out of everybody. Justin, I swear there was a time in that 9th inning I thought Duran wasn't going to get it done.
There was no reason to assume that game was going to end 1-0. That
of course
run
not.
was scored early.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't even saying they were going to lose. You just were saying this game's not going to stay 1-0. Most games don't stay 1-0.
Right, so keep scoring, boys. That was my point. Yeah.
Most Phillies games don't stay 1-0, and it's most Phillies games against the Mets don't stay 1-0. So anybody coming at you and being like, well, I was saying the whole time it would stay 1-0. Like, No, you weren't. Nobody thought that. It would be crazy if you thought that. This game was crazy. Aaron Nola threw 6 shutout innings. This game was crazy. I absolutely was concerned. I mean, based on the way the Phillies have played the Mets recently, or more aptly how the Mets have played the Phillies recently, and how they've been able to kind of like get to whoever they wanted and have a great time doing it. They sure had a great time getting Harrison Bader out tonight. Every time,
oh my gosh!
Every
Harrison's
time they got him, they're all laughing.
Thrown out on the bases.
Yeah, they were all having like a chuckle fest out there in the infield every time they got him. But yeah, I think they seem to have been able to handle business against the Phillies, as we have seen, relentlessly, nonstop. So I thought any at bat where the Mets were looking anything more than lifeless, which I guess was just the last one with Alvarez, was a chance for them to tie the game. Was a chance for them to put some runs together and just get a ball past the infield and a couple runs come in, and hey, you know what? That might be it. That might be the ball game, because the Phillies weren't hitting very much either. So 1-0 game. Yeah, you're kind of on the razor's edge the entire time. This is going to be one. This one will make the video yearbook, I think.
Oh,
this was a serious win. That was the perfect time for them to be able to hold a very fragile 1-0 lead together for as long as they did.
Well, and this game ended any thoughts of the Mets pulling off a 2007 like comeback of sweeping these 4 games in Philadelphia and getting all charged up. That's what winning this first one. That's what this really does. It puts the Phillies, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, it puts the Phillies 8 games up in the National League East. If the Phillies just play .500 the rest of the way, if they go 9-9, in order for the Mets to catch them, the Mets would have to go 17-1. So, as long as the Phillies don't crater. I don't see 17-1 in the Mets' future here over the last 18 games. So I'll ask the question: is it over? Is the NL East race over? I think I'm seeing even Mets people saying that yes, it's over. I'm ready to say the National League East race is over, even if the Mets leave town
Justin,
with
what do you
3
think?
wins under their belt.
Are we making pronouncements now? I thought not making them was just so much safer.
Yeah,
okay.
no, that's no fun though.
I will say, no, man.
See?
I'm checking in my deepest heart of hearts
Thank
here.
you.
I can't claim that. No, you're not doing a victory lap for not having an opinion. That's not happening. Absolutely not.
Not wanting to make a pronouncement is it's definitely not about not having an opinion.
So,
It's.
is the race over or not?
I think it's over. I was ready to say that.
Okay. Well, just to finish my thought, checking in with my deepest heart of hearts. There's so many loose parts to this, and the Phillies, maybe if they hadn't had to read off a list of their dead before the game today, I would have a little more confidence in moving ahead and saying on September 8th that the team that's absolutely gotten their goat all season long and is in their heads and is absolutely unbeatable at their own field is ready to relent the division. I mean, 8 games, that's a lot of games. Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely, but boy, it's just tough to say given the state the Phillies are in right now and the way the Mets have been able to beat them pretty easily for most of the season. So I don't know. It's just tough to land on that spot. And I'm the one who said the Braves were done well before I should have. I'd said that very prematurely, but I did say it.
But
and they are done.
You were right.
I'm only bringing that up. I'm only bringing that up because that was like the one time I was right after I made a pronouncement. I've been wrong about literally everything else, I'm pretty sure, I've put out there, including if this is the beginning of an Aaron Nola streak. I'm totally off on him as well.
So I want to ask you too now with Trea Turner out. What did you guys make of the lineup tonight? Did you like Bryce Harper in the leadoff
Certainly
spot?
had baseball players in it, is what I noticed.
It was a weird
There
one.
were a number of baseball players. I know most of the names too. Yeah. So I guess I didn't think when I was trying to make out lineups, I did not think Bryce Harper at the top of the lineup. I was not thinking Bryce Harper as the leadoff hitter. I get it. They don't mind having Harper and Schwarber bat 1-2, and those are, you want those guys. If there's any 2 guys on the team, you probably want to get the most plate appearances. Harper and Schwarber are probably it. Both guys are kind of struggling right now, especially with the power game. So nothing's really happening for them. Harper went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Schwarber went 0 for 3 with a walk. So it's been a struggle for those 2 guys as of late. But I mean, I don't know what else you're going to do at the top of the lineup. I would have probably just put Schwarber back at the top of the lineup. And I like the idea of Harrison Bader in the 2 spot right now, given how he's hitting. He's normally a good base runner. Not tonight, Monday night notwithstanding, and all the outs he made on the bases. But I kind of like the idea of Schwarber in the leadoff spot. I mean, I always want Schwarber to move down a little bit, but just for sake of comfort, he's comfortable in the leadoff spot. So you go Schwarber, Bader, Harper, Real Muto, and then you kind of figure the rest out. You kind of slot the rest of the guys down in whatever order suits your fancy based on righty or lefty or whatever it might happen to be. So I don't know. Liz, what do you think?
I really like the idea of Bader at the 2 spot. Despite the caught stealing tonight, he went 3 for 4, which is with 1 strikeout. He looked, he's been doing that a lot. He's really productive. I don't know if that means they should move him, considering he's been doing well where he is, but I would certainly try it. I think it would be better than Harper in at least the number 1 or the number 2 spot. I'd be happy with Schwarber back at leadoff. That seemed to work pretty well for a time. It might help him get a little bit of his mojo back, whatever's happening with him. But yeah, I think putting Bader at the 2 spot is a good idea. At least see if he can hack it there. See if he can keep his numbers up, because he's been hot since he got on the team.
I said this weekend, if this team goes where they want to go, you could make the argument that Harrison Bader saved the Phillies season. And I don't think that's necessarily a wrong statement. It's fun to, I think it's strategically sound to put him in the 2 hole and let him get himself on base with like one of his classic multi-hit nights, and so that he's on base when somebody like Harper or Schwarber comes up, depending on where they're hitting like that. That's obviously got value. But I'll tell you this, I mean, his best numbers in his career, which is longer than you'd think, come from hitting in the 2 hole. Yeah, being a 316 hitter out of the 2 hole, 973 OPS out of the 2 hole. He doesn't hit even 300 any other spot in the lineup, except a couple of times he hit cleanup, and so he's got some skewed numbers there. But yeah, he's got really, historically, he's been able to hit in that spot, and being the kind of hitter he is, he's the kind of guy you want in like the center of the action right now, because he is able to, slap a line drive up the middle and cause some trouble and get in people's heads while he's on base. Like that's exactly what you want to see. But here's another thing you could do if you're Rob Thompson, is you just get all your players' names written on magnetic poetry strips, and you put them in a hat, and you just grab them and you throw them at the fridge before the game every night, and you just kind of go by that, because again, the way that we're going to be ending this season in the state the Phillies are in, again, I'm not as worried about the order that they're hitting in. I'm just worried about like basic functionality of this offense, and I sometimes I think we're getting lost in the details a little bit. But that being said, Bader hitting second is not an unfathomable or unhelpful move in the days ahead. And I think you're going to see it. You're definitely going to see it.
I like what you said there about him saving the season. I think he might have saved the offense because
the outfield.
Well, it's made the outfield like an actual major league outfield now, because you can play him every day in center field, and that allows you to do a 1993 like platoon in left field and right field. I think the Kepler-Castellanos platoon in right field has gone exceedingly well. I mean, those 2 guys playing, I know Castellanos I'm sure doesn't like it, because Kepler's going to get more of the playing time against right-handed pitchers. But my goodness, you improve yourself defensively and offensively in that situation. And in left field, Brandon Marsh has been doing better against left-handers. He's seeing, even in this platoon situation, he's not getting subbed out of games late against left-handers, but he's starting against righties. And then Weston Wilson's occasionally hitting the home run against a left-handed starter or whatever when he's making starts in left. But you're actually seeing Phillies outfielders providing offensive production, which we haven't seen in a couple of years.
Doing their jobs.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think Harrison Bader has been the linchpin in center field, and I think he's been it's one of the best. As bad as Austin Hayes was last year, and that the way that trade worked out, Harrison Bader is working out absolutely beautifully.
Let me ask you this. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time criticizing the way the Phillies put together their offseason moves and the decisions they made and the approaches they had to the holes they were trying to fill. does this trade deadline, did Dombrowski hit on every move he made at the trade deadline, and does that kind of like make up for the Jordan Romano and the Max Kepler? I mean, because Kepler's even playing better now, and Luzardo obviously has been a very important player for the Phillies this year, but there was some complaints given the lengthy amount of time that Kepler was not hitting or being an acceptable member of this offense or outfield. And obviously Romano was a complete disaster. But now you got Bader, who we're saying could potentially be the savior of the season based on what he's been able to do. Obviously Duran is one of the team's best players and important players as well. This was a pretty... And David Robertson. This was a pretty effective trade deadline. Like, we have nothing but pleasant things to say about all these guys.
Yeah, he definitely hit on all those moves. Whether it makes up for it's hard to say that it makes up for the offseason moves, considering the amount of time they had to make those moves and the amount of clamor that they were hearing from the fan base, including all three of us on this podcast. There were a lot of opportunities for them to make different choices, and they still didn't do it. And in the heat of the moment, Dave Dombrowski managed to get it right during the season. I don't know what that says about him and his decision-making, if anything. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but it's certainly good to see him hit on his in-season moves when they've, in the past, been much like the off-season moves that they made this year. Completely non-functional, very, very bad, a huge blow-up, enormous mistake. So it's nice to see it reverse and have the in-season moves, which, in a lot of ways are arguably more, pressing, more urgent, actually work out, because you can't get a guy at the beginning of the season that saves the season. You can only get that guy mid-season. And he actually did it. He got one guy, two guys, three guys. I mean, we're seeing a lot more David Robertson than Jose Alvarado these days, which I think is probably not a bad thing, considering how wild Alvarado remains. Each of those guys could have a claim to having saved a certain part of the Phillies season or the Phillies game. So, it's like a dream to have all of those moves work out the way they did.
And, I don't think any serious person would have said that because Dave Dombrowski decided to go with a lot of bounce-back candidates in the offseason, that should be a serious dent in his legacy or hurt his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame. Like, he's established. He's set. He's fine. And, I mean, I'll even say this. Obviously, I never want to see Jordan Romano pitch for the Phillies again as each game gets more and more important. But it could have worked. It wasn't. It could have worked. Crazy. Well, there was no reason to think it's definitely going to be a disaster. The annoyance came from why didn't we go out there and get a sure thing? I guess the complaint was, and we didn't know it at the time, but why didn't they just trade for Duran? We wanted some big sexy name to get really excited about, a guy with an intro, like a professional wrestler. But instead we got this guy who got hurt from the Blue Jays, and they're hoping he can return to form. And it turns out he couldn't. And obviously Kepler was not carrying the load also, so for most of the season. So I think it was annoyance with the approach, but both of those guys could have had more successful seasons this year. They definitely, it could have worked. Bounce back candidates work all the time.
We wanted Jeff Hoffman re-signed, and Hoffman Hoffman has not been good in Toronto. Both teams decided to make a change. The Phillies went with a shorter-term 1-year option on Romano, hoping that they would get a bounce back from him. So less commitment, but certainly less of what seemed to be less of a sure thing. And it blew up in their faces. The Blue Jays had to sign Hoffman to a 3-year deal. And he has had months where he's been very good, but he's also had 3 months out of the season where he's been knocked around tremendously. He's been very unreliable as the Blue Jays closer. We would not be at all happy with Jeff Hoffman if he was having the kind of season in Philadelphia that he's having in Toronto. So that's So
he's got a 4.77 ERA.
He's given up a ton of home runs too.
That's hideous.
Yeah, he's given up a ton of home runs this year, just like Romano has. So I mean, that's kind of a wash. Neither of those moves probably would have worked out. Max Kepler may end up having something significant to say about the Phillies winning this division and maybe even winning some playoff games in October, which if a month ago, I'm not saying that.
Absolutely not.
And I'm still not sure calling up Justin Crawford and letting Max Kepler go, it wasn't the right move to make, but they didn't do that, and Kepler's playing well right now, so okay, we'll go with that. But Justin, 100% agree that I think that he has made up for a lot of those offseason mistakes by nailing the Harrison Bader signing, the trade, which I was not enamored with when they made it. I was underwhelmed with getting Harrison Bader. I kind of was in the Lewis Robert Jr. camp, and I'm certainly glad they went the Harrison Bader route because he's much better than I thought he was, or at least he's having a career year just in time for him to be here in Philadelphia. The single best acquisition anyone made at the trade deadline was Jhoan Duran. And that's not just me saying it as a homer. I've read a number of articles from national sites easily declaring Duran the most impactful and the best deal made at the trade deadline. Not only because you have him for this year, you have him for 2 more years after this as your closer, which is really cool to think about. And then you're right, being able to get David Robertson off the free agent heap and not having to trade for a second relief pitcher and being able to just get him and bring him in has been tremendous. He's way better than I thought he was going to be. I really didn't see that working out. So, yeah, I agree 100%. Real quick to wrap things up here.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, yeah. I just wanted to throw a little bit more credit Dave Dombrowski's way because as I'll speak just for myself, definitely cursing him and all of the short-term, bargain bin moves he made. Had he done anything else like re-signed Hoffman to a 3-year contract, none of the trades that he made in midseason would have happened. If they'd had Hoffman for 3 years and he stinks like he is doing, they would not have traded. They would not have been able to trade for Jhoan Duran. It's because, in this case, they had Romano for 1 year and that was nothing. They traded for Harrison Bader and they had Kepler for 1 year at however much he was being paid, which I don't remember off the top of my head.
Man, but if he was struggling this much in year 1 of a 3-year deal, oh boy, yeah, people would be apoplectic.
Exactly. And so I'll throw a little bit more credit his way because he didn't see anything in the offseason that moved him. And he thought, let's wait and see if the Twins crash and burn spectacularly and we'll take we'll sell some of their best players for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And indeed they did. So that's why he's a Hall of Fame. That's why he's a Hall of Fame executive and I'm here.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it's a great point for sure. Last thing, the Phillies promoted Aidan Miller to AAA from AA on Monday. And when Alec Bohm, I had said, people were saying like, well, Aidan Miller, could he come up and replace Trea Turner? He's a shortstop. Miller really turned it on in the second half and took what was a disappointing season and turned it into something really promising and positive, especially for a 21-year-old playing in AA. I mean, so yeah, I know Baseball America, I think, or maybe it's MLB Pipeline has Aidan Miller as their #1 prospect now ahead of Andrew Painter in their most recent rankings from a couple of months ago. They promote him to AAA, and I saw some people saying, well, why wouldn't you bring him up? Let him play for Turner. It's like, that's why you have Sosa. That didn't make a lot of sense just, bringing up Aidan Miller by putting Trea Turner on the injured list. But when Alec Bohm went on the injured list too, and you're bringing up Donovan Walton, right? Donovan Walton.
Yes.
Yeah, nailed it.
Nailed it.
I'm going to say his name a lot over the next few weeks, I'm sure. When they brought up Donovan Walton, I wondered to myself, well, would Aidan Miller, why not? Why not? And ordinarily, I would not have been a fan of that. I just couldn't imagine him getting any starts during. But at this point, I'm not really interested in him. Like he still needs to start every day. It's September. His minor league season is another week and a half long. So I mean, I wouldn't be worried about we're depriving him of playing every day. He's played the whole season every day. That development has taken place. I don't know, Justin. Would you have gone Aidan Miller over Donovan Walton? I kind of like that idea. I don't know anything about Donovan Walton. I know he's had a good season for Lehigh Valley, but I don't know. I thought that thought intrigued me.
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of informal pressure on these top 3 Phillies prospects to kind of find a role to play in the season this year, and obviously Painter was like the most oft-discussed one of those, where it was like, yeah, I mean, essentially the Phillies themselves were talking about how, we're expecting that at some point in the second half after he's had enough time at AAA. He's going to come up and be some sort of boon for this rotation. And the other guys, could play similar roles based on where they play as well. And I think they're kind of just learning that, prospects are hard to plan around, and unfortunately, with all three of these guys, like you said, Miller turned it on, and they've all had patches of encouraging performances this year. But for the most part, you just maybe weren't seeing enough to think, all right, this guy is an answer, or you weren't forced into a position where you had to treat a guy like he was one of these prospects, like they were the answer, when perhaps they didn't seem like they were. And that's putting aside what you're mentioning of what about their playing time, or what about throwing off their rhythm. It's like, based on what the Phillies need, looking at what each of these guys was doing in the minors just wasn't going to be the answer. And Dombrowski felt like I can do this differently. These guys don't have to be, they don't have to come up and get all this pressure heaped on them to be some sort of answer to the Phillies' problems. I mean, yeah, I think that's just the unfortunate reality was that, all of these guys were going to benefit more from staying down in the minors. So, yeah, I mean, right now, bringing Aidan Miller up, that'd be cool. And it might even be more helpful. But end of the day, I think you're right with that statement of that's what Edmundo Sosa is for. And he has also been just an absolutely outstanding addition to this team for as long as he's been here now. This, utility infielder who I think just has a bigger presence and role than most utility infielders do on most of these teams. Like, he has been important enough for this team and I know he always run the risk of him getting overexposed when he plays for too much, but boy, he has been able to come through for them enough, and especially at times like this, that you worry even the slightest bit less about a player as important as Trea Turner going down for a period of time because you have an Edmundo Sosa to reach for.
He may be the most underrated player on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a fair argument. Apparently teams ask about him a lot at the trade deadline, and the Phillies have said over and over again, no, he's too important to us to move.
No, if they didn't have him now, they would have been going after him at the trade deadline this year.
That's right. That's right. Liz, would you have brought up Aidan Miller?
I agree with Justin. I agree with both of you guys. I don't think bringing him up would be productive. Why put him under all that pressure? That's what I say. Here, come in, play for Trea Turner. No,
I would bring him up not to play for Trea Turner. I mean, I would be at Sosa's job, but I would have him on the bench as he stole over 50 bases. I'd let him run. I'd let him be in as a defensive replacement. I'd have him up for those reasons. For whatever you were going to ask Donovan Walton to do, that's what I would have said. Hey, let's have Aidan Miller come up and do those different kinds of things. But at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter a whole lot because neither guy would see the field a whole lot. And giving Donovan Walton this chance might be his last chance playing in the majors. Who knows how much he's going to get in there? It's kind of I get it. It's kind of a fun story, and I don't mind it.
Aidan Miller's got time.
Yeah,
there's always maybe a little bit of value to be like, let's get him some major league experience. Sure, let's throw him into a pennant race, even in a small role. See how he reacts, or even just let it get the slightest bit more normalized for him, because obviously the idea is Aidan Miller's going to be playing in playoff games for the Phillies at some point. But again, it's now September. This team is somehow not in disaster mode, despite all of this stuff that's bad happening. Yeah. And I'm just I know this mindset 2 or 3 weeks ago where it's like, I mean, the time of questions is over. The time of prospects, that's you have answers for 2025. Yeah. What's this guy going to be like in 2025? You have your answer. You got it. So at this point, the goal is win enough games to get that playoff bye. That's keep it simple. That's what it is. I likened it to trying to just land a plane with no wings like a couple weeks ago. That's kind of where I'm at. It's just that you got to just go with what you know at this point, and everything you're going to learn in September.
The Phillies are now 8-3 since that series in New York. So you talk about answering their worst stretch of the season,
and they have a bigger space between them and the Mets than they did at the beginning of that series.
That's right. With an 8-game lead now, it's larger than the 7-game lead that they started with, and certainly it's 4 games better than the 4-game lead that they had when they left town. So the Phillies have surged following that series, and the Mets, after that emotional series where they turned their season around, have played very poorly since then, and now you have the Phillies with it's a commanding 8-game lead in the National League East and at least a 4-game lead over the Dodgers. We'll see how they do against the Rockies here in their series for that number 2 spot. Just a couple things before we finish. Trea Turner said after the game on Monday that his hamstring tear is similar to the one he had from last year, but smaller and on the opposite side. He said he's confident that he will be back for the playoffs. So
all right,
a little bit of a conflict.
Nice.
I'll take it.
Nice to hear.
And then with 6 scoreless innings, the good fight stat guru Schmeckman tweeted out that Aaron Nola recorded his 153rd career quality start. That moves him ahead of Curt Schilling for the 6th most in Phillies history. 6th most quality starts in Phillies history. Does anybody want to take a crack at the 5 starting pitchers in front of Aaron Nola with more quality starts in Phillies history?
Cole Hamels.
Correct. He's number 4.
Steve Carlton.
Steve Carlton's number 1.
Jim Bunning.
Jim Bunning is not on there. Jim Bunning is number 9.
Robin Roberts.
Robin Roberts is 2. There's 2 more, number 3 and number 5.
You already said Schilling, right?
He just passed Schilling.
He's past Schilling, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously your mind goes to like Halladay, Lee, but like were they here long enough to
They
accrue
weren't here
the
long
amount?
enough.
The answer is no. Yeah. So
Long-time pitchers.
Chris Short.
Chris Short is correct. I wasn't sure that you would get that one. He's number 5. There's 1 left. Number 3 on the list. Old school.
Old school.
Older school than anyone else we've mentioned.
Yes. Think. You want me to give you the time frame?
Not yet.
Not yet.
He's too busy looking
Are
it
we
up.
doing research?
No. I'm just confirming
you are.
something unrelated.
He's looking up a recipe for chicken dumplings on his computer as we do this. He's multitasking. It's a beautiful thing. Liz, do you have a guess?
Go ahead, Liz.
I
You guess.
don't. I don't have a guess.
His number is
Grover
retired
Cleveland
by the
Alexander?
Phillies.
Yeah.
What's that?
Is it Grover Cleveland Alexander?
It's Grover Alexander. Yes,
Okay,
Grover
yeah.
Cleveland Alexander is number 3 on the list. So Steve
That's what I was
Carlton,
thinking. I just was like, okay, wait. My brain is so ruined right now that I was like, I got to confirm he's a pitcher, and I don't want to make a giant idiot out of myself.
no, but this tells you where Aaron Nola is. Despite he's going to have the most interesting legacy of any pitcher in Phillies history, because Steve Carlton, Robin Roberts, Grover Alexander, Cole Hamels, Chris Short, Aaron Nola, right there, your top 6 Phillies quality starts. He's one of the greatest pitchers in franchise history, and he's going to be largely disliked by the majority, by a large segment of the fan base. So it's just not quite fair. But
Frustrating is the fair word.
It is the fair word.
It's the fair
Yes.
shorthand for Aaron Nola.
It is the fair word.
Absolutely fair. It's totally
Yep.
earned by him, and it is not.
I agree.
Because it is a word I think even he would use to describe
Yep.
those moments.
I agree. All right, let's finish up with some final thoughts. That was mine. Justin, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just 2 more things about visiting Lone Depot Park. They have their 2 World Series banners are hung up in such a way, and they're made of such a material that if you're there during the day, the way the light hits them, it's like they fade away and you cannot see them, which is some sort of sad little metaphor about this franchise that I always am entertained by, because the Marlins are so set apart from the rest of baseball and like their color scheme and like their culture and everything. It is totally theirs and totally their own. I wish they were a more prominent club in
love the
baseball
colors.
in general.
Man,
Like
the
it's
colors are just the best.
it's just such a good opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the other thing was the term they're using to get people to like, oh, come on out to watch Marlins games as we finish out, a season that's just another Marlins season, was watch the fish, fight to the finish. And I just couldn't help but laugh, because it was such like we are not going to the playoffs, and every day is a fight. I know Marlins don't swim upstream, but like that just felt like too obvious right there. Like, watch the Marlins struggle to finish the regular season and then not be a part of the postseason. Come on out, it'll be great. And like I said at the beginning of the show, a lot of people apparently will go do that, and that is wonderful. That is what baseball is all about.
Liz, final thoughts?
Well, I was going to talk about the Dodgers getting walked off by the Orioles twice.
What a crazy game. Oh my gosh.
Including
That was the game
wasting
of the year.
8 2/3 innings, no hit innings from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I was going to talk about that because that game was wild. But instead, what you didn't mention was the Bob Nightingale rumor.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if you wanted to mention that because you teased it at the very beginning, and I feel like some people might be wondering.
Ran out of time, but yes, thank you. Bob Nightingale of USA Today did report on Monday, basically saying like, don't worry about losing Kyle Schwarber. Any worry about losing Kyle Schwarber if you're the Phillies is, I don't have it in front of me anymore, but is silly and ridiculous. He's basically saying he's so important to the city that money won't be an object when it comes to re-signing Kyle Schwarber. So Bob Nightingale is saying as clear as he can, Kyle Schwarber is not going anywhere. He's coming back to Philadelphia. Both sides want it. He loves Philadelphia. The Phillies love him. Money won't be an obstacle for him coming back to Philadelphia. So there's that. The other note that he mentioned is Nick Castellanos, and said the Phillies are going to be much more active in trying to trade Nick Castellanos this offseason, even if that includes eating a large portion of his salary, which it sounds like is not something that they have been wanting to do in previous trade discussions with teams. And obviously they would have had to eat more of it because he had multiple years left on his deal. With just one left, they might be more willing to do that. And Rob Thompson and the Phillies have clearly decided he is no longer an everyday player worth paying $20 million a year to, and that the team they have to move on from him this offseason. So those are the two big headlines from Bob Nightingale. Again, both things that I wanted to hear, so I'm choosing to believe them, and they both make sense.
Wonder who told him
And I
that.
thought those would be nice tidbits to end the podcast with.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. That was good. Yeah, I was going to have a whole discussion on it. We got so excited about the Mets game here on Monday night. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. And folks, want to make sure that you are telling your friends and your family members about the Hittin' Season podcast. I mean, if you're just sitting around the dinner table and you're talking Phillies, bring us up. Just it doesn't hurt, and say, hey, I know a podcast. It's called Hittin' Season. Like, give me your phone. I'll help you subscribe. And we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts, any podcast app. We are there. Also, you can watch this episode of Hittin' Season on the WHYY YouTube page. Hello, everybody. You've probably stopped watching and listening at this point in the podcast, but if you still are, we waved at you, and we want you to subscribe to the WHYY YouTube page so that you can see this show in its entirety. You can watch it on your smart TV as you're cleaning the house or whatever it is you're doing, and make sure you also subscribe to the Hittin' Season YouTube page as well. That's where we put our other podcasts too. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.